Jason, see that down here in the window? Oh, you find one.
I hope it won't become too noisy. What I would like to do is go over to Randstad as a planning concept, as a concept about the spatial organization of a specific area as it is moving forward in policy. First, I would like to do is go back to the origins of the Randstad as a planning concept. The origins are back to the 1950s. The issue is very alive in those days was the fear of massive urban growth in the Netherlands, because main industries were located there, chemical industries, steelworks, etc. Got big agglomerating forces in those days. And Parliament asked the government to present some vision on the future development of the Randstad. And according to the best principles of Dutch policy, a committee of specialists was put together, and they issued a report in 1958. Its content very much comparable with what was presented by the Barlow Commission in England in the 40s, focusing on the development of the southeast of England. And this commission proposed a Randstad, a wind city, made of well-defined cities of maximum size, 8 kilometers in diameter. And if these cities would reach this maximum size, urban development would have to spill over to new towns, called in those days satellite cities, satellite states. And between those cities of the Randstad, buffer zones should be made. You're already mentioned by Dominic. Those are the checked areas on this map, and right in the middle, a green mountain. That was the origins of this planning concept, which turned into what's, I'm not sure whether you're all familiar already with the work of Andreas Fayoudi, but it turned into a planning doctrine. It was accepted in national policy and defended and used over the course of the coming decades. But this planning doctrine was very much a doctrine about urban form, about urban pattern. It wasn't a doctrine about what you would call functional structure of the Randstad, the way people commute, the relationships between the various sorts of companies, within the Randstad and with the outside world. There was an alternative discourse, which you hardly find in the literature, but I have to mention it was some kind of alternative discourse in this big report of 1958. And it was presented by somebody from the Ministry of Transport, emphasizing that the Randstad shouldn't grow outwards as this was. That's my feeling. No, sorry. This was the logo of the Randstad in 58. The Randstad which should grow outward direction. There was an alternative discourse saying that if you look at the way companies develop and the way they develop their relationship, the Randstad should grow inwards. It makes far more sense in terms of economic logic. Avoid duplication of infrastructure if you develop a Randstad growing in outward direction. But this alternative discourse was put aside, was not accepted, because this idea of one big urban area in the west of the Netherlands called the Sea of Houses. This idea, this dystopia, was far much too strong in the ideas of politicians and planners, and this alternative vision was not accepted. The Randstad, the idea of Randstad changed over time. What remained was the idea of green buffer zones, but how we look at the urban structure of the western part of the Netherlands changed over time, and sometimes you don't even recognize the Randstad. This image is taken from a national planning report. Vincent just emphasized that there's a Netherlands issuing national planning reports on average about every 10 years. This one is from 1966, very positive planning report, and what's very characteristic of this particular report was the assumption that big urban systems would develop, large urban systems, first urban regions, and then in a later stage even urban conurbations around the turn of the center. This was very much the idea behind this. How are people going to behave in the future? They won't stay inside the cities, they will use big areas in terms of housing, in terms of where they work, in terms of leisure. But how to recognize is the Randstad itself. Recognize the areas, but the Randstad itself, this horseshoe-shaped ring, is very difficult to detect. Well, some of these ideas were left behind in the 1970s. Lonely already spoke about 1970s, the issue of renewal became very dominant, so policy was looking exclusively outside to develop new urban areas. Also inside the cities where a big task of urban renewal was identified. So the focus was becoming more on the inner city parts of urban areas, on the daily environment, the quality of the daily environment of city inhabitants. And what happened to the Randstad? The Randstad, in terms of planning concept, became more or less a system of urban a system of smaller, well-defined urban regions. Again, there was an alternative discourse claiming that what's lacking in Randstad is some sort of metropolitan environment which is clearly recognizable if you look at it from the European perspective. Competitive areas, new business districts that would attract companies to the Netherlands. This was called the so-called environment. But this discourse was put aside, politically unacceptable, because politicians were saying this would mean that centers of cities would grow and spill over into the adjacent residential areas, which would be unacceptable. People living there, also people living there would move other parts of the Randstad and it would put pressure really hard. Again, the issue of urban fall very, very strong here, and major reason to put aside this alternative discourse of developing internationally competitive urban areas, which nowadays are very, very much alive in politics and planning as well. So what happened in the 1970s? Green hard, very strong policy concept. Buffer zone, very strong policy concept again as well. But Randstad turned into a kind of place name. No policies on the level of the different side of Randstad.